Today, I wanted to talk about the importance of isolation, whether self-imposed or you have felt cast out, pushed to the sidelines within your community or even smaller circle, your friend group, family members, what have you. Your so-called quote unquote tribe, right? And therein lies the irony, because if they were truly your tribe, your people, they would not be casting you out, but there's a purpose to that, and there's also a reason. The purpose is they could be pushing you toward something that is going to help you develop and transform into the being you were born to be, the person you were born to be, the light worker, the healer, the person with a platform that can speak to thousands, nay, hundreds of thousands of people at a time, 1 million people at a time. Right? So that could be a purpose. Isolation is important. This is one of my straight to the dome, hidden message transfers today. I'm feeling very connected spiritually. The thread is strong, specifically this week. There's a purpose for that too. I've been reading up, brushing up, trying to understand the reason behind why some people have to go into hiding, why some people are thrust into isolation. Isolation used to scare the heck out of me. Sometimes it still does. Some seasons it still shakes me to my core, shakes me up. I consider myself a very bubbly, lively, electric, whimsical, colorful person. And some people may not agree with my definition of who I am. And what I have to say to those people is not that you caught me on a bad day or a bad week or a bad season, but I'm an acquired taste. Different strokes for different folks. I might display a completely different personality towards you because I feel in my spirit, and now this is all subconsciously, right? This is unconscious way of how I present myself. So for example, with one person at work, I might be very lively and we might be vibing on the highest frequency. We understand each other. We share the same language. We have the same body language. We are truly connecting more than colleagues. Almost as if we were cut from the same cloth. You know? Like that saying, brother from another mother. That type of vibe. But then in the cubicle over, my next door neighbor in the other cubicle, they are as flat as still water. There's just nothing that can be bounced off of them. No joke, no smile, not a crack of a smile on my face. They've got a confused look on their face when I'm saying something or trying to relate. I could be more introverted around them, more shy to myself. And a lot of the times, it's all, we are dealing with the hidden. We are dealing with the underneath, the things that are happening underneath the surface. And I ask myself sometimes, I catch myself asking myself, why is that? Why is that I can be my true self, my most authentic self with one person, and this other person makes me shy away and makes me peel back or cower away or just turn away from my most authentic self, my expressions, my true expressions. Safety could be one of the answers. Just the level of safety I feel with that person. Do they feel like a safe space or not? 10 times out of 10, they're not a safe space. So I probably picked up on those subliminals just from how they interact with other people or how they even come across to me. But enough about that. Let's talk more about isolation. So isolating yourself from the group. We as human beings, we are social creatures. So it is only natural that I was terrified of isolation for so long. But I have found myself, since I was a child, I have found myself being cast out from social settings, from groups, because of a number of reasons. Could have been I did not mesh well with the group. I was maybe too weird, too awkward, too loud, too expressive, too emotional, too sensitive. It could have been anything. It could have been a lot of things. And the purpose of isolation, the reason for it, like what is the reason? Like, why am I feeling so out of the loop, right? Sometimes we ask ourselves, we question ourselves, we think, oh, it's my fault. It's because I did something. I said something wrong. They didn't like how I reacted. They didn't like what I had to say. They didn't like the truth. They couldn't handle it. I should have kept my mouth shut. I should have been better at walking on eggshells. Let's face it. I'm too much. But what is too much, right? Like, this world is big enough to hold space for 8 billion lives. What is too much? You're always going to be too much for the wrong people. You're always going to be too much, too heavy for people who can't carry 10 pounds at a time. Okay, that's their max. That's their capacity. you are well over that. Your heart, your soul, your essence is heavier than that. And that's okay. Because there are other people who are putting in the work. They're putting in the reps, the spiritual reps, the weights that they are carrying, the growth, the transformation, the shedding, the constant shedding, the leveling up. They are fasting. They are practicing good character and good conduct. They're praying. They are doing the work, the spiritual work, the shadow work, the things that people don't see. I'm not talking about the physical weightlifting. I'm talking about the spiritual weightlifting and working out those spiritual muscles that people tend to neglect when life gets in the way. Those are the people that can carry you because you are on par. You're on the same level. But your so-called tribe that you feel shunned from, outcast, they're not on the same level as you. So that's where the isolation comes from. And that's what I wanted to talk about. That's what I've been feeling, is that's what has followed me for many years. But it wasn't until in the current times that I come to accept it, that I've made peace with feeling left out in the conversation, left out in collaboration, left out in the energetic flow, cut off from the energetic flow of the people around me. And I used to chalk it up to, we're just incompatible. I'm their friction, they're my friction. We're here to clear a karmic debt. We're not here to actually be each other's peace or to amplify each other's peace. We're just here to learn lessons and move on. And once we learn the lessons, then that person will gradually just leave my life, or I'll walk away and I'll go and do something else. It can be like that. But there was a time that really got me thinking. And it was in the 4th grade. And I remember that was the loneliest year that I faced. In all of my school experience, my entire K through 12 experience, 4th grade stands out as the loneliest year. And there was a lot going on mentally as well as physically, right? Physically, like I'm changing, I'm growing from 9 years of age to 10. There's a lot of growth that's happening there. Not to mention the birth of my youngest sibling and coming home and being greeted by a happy baby and also having to help around the house and take care of the baby. There was a lot to juggle, a lot of new things on my plate, right? Like going to school full time, that's your work. As a kid, that's what you do. That you're a full-time student, that's your full-time job. And then coming home and tending to younger siblings, that's also a lot to carry. And so I felt very different from the kids in my class. I think I was maturing so rapidly that I kind of had this out of body experience, and that I could feel the friendships, the newfound friendships of the beginning, like that first quarter. I just felt those friendships slipping away. And day by day, I felt that isolation. And I would just feel more at peace in my bedroom at home. And it's like, I cannot wait to get out of school. I cannot wait to just go into my room, close the door, and watch my cartoons and be alone and be at peace. Like I truly felt like I was forced to be in isolation. I had no choice. Every friend that I would make would distance themselves from me over the course of days and weeks. And I wondered why. I truly had no idea. That was the first year, and the first ever. Like it was the first and the last, I will say. Because with me, you only get me one time, right? Like you only shock me once. You do it, you come back around. It's never going to happen again. But this was the first time that I had ever experienced a school bully. And she was a new girl. She had come from up north. Everyone was fascinated by her stories, things that she grew up doing. You know, me and my classmates, like we grew up in the South. We've never seen snow, so she would tell us about snow. She would tell us about life up northeast and how things are. And yeah, you know, it was really just whatever fourth graders talk about is what we talked about. But there was a lot of infighting in the classroom that ensued with this new student. A lot of girl versus girl, and let's see who's the most popular, and we're going to have this girl, you know, take the top spot and be the queen bee and kind of run the whole classroom. And if you don't get with her, you get left out. So a lot of that was going on. There was competition. And I wanted nothing to do with it. I just wanted to pass my standardized tests by the end of the year. I wanted to pass all subjects in class. I wanted to do well because my parents were breathing down my neck and saying, you pressuring me to do better, to do well, and to exceed. And I didn't have time for classroom politics. That's how I was. I was a very soft, sweet girl. I did not fare well with bullying. I didn't know how to stand up for myself, and I didn't like to get involved. And so I didn't. And a lot of the times I felt like I was being targeted anyway, right? Damned if you do get caught up in the drama, and damned if you don't get caught up in the drama. Either way, it's a lose-lose situation. You're still going to find yourself hurt somewhere in the middle. And that isolation, that feeling of isolation, I guess all I can say about the matter is, when all was said and done, I had no choice but to put all of my efforts and all of my goodness and all of my strength and intelligence into academics. Of my entire class, I ended up being one of maybe one or two of us, if I'm not mistaken. There's very few of us that received the highest score for the writing portion of our standardized tests. And back in the day, we used to get heavily graded or marked on writing. It was weighted heavily. I remember that isolation brought me to that point where I had nothing else left to do but focus on one thing and one thing only, and that was school. There weren't any friends to distract me. There wasn't any drama to distract me. There wasn't any of the internal issues about identity and longing. I just cut all of that out, and I guess I was so over it and so done and so upset to the point that it brought me to clarity. And I kind of shook off all of that sadness and shame and the feeling of being cornered and targeted and cast out. I was like, you know what? One day, this school year is going to end. In X amount of days, like I would tell myself, in X amount of days, it's going to be the last day of school, and I'm going to scream hallelujah, jump up and down, and do cartwheels and race out the freaking door. Like there's a fire in the building, right? Right. Because one day it's all going to come to an end. And until that day, I'm going to ace these exams because that's all I have left. And that is what I remembered from decades ago. Let's think about how they were called upon by something. They were called upon to distance themselves from you for a reason. Remember about the purpose I was talking about earlier. There's a purpose for everything. There's a reason for everything. What could the reason be? That is a part of your journey to find the answer, to discover the truth. What could be the purpose? Why people are switching up in your life? Why are people acting different? Why are they acting weird? Have you changed, or have they changed, or both? Just knowing that, had I not felt so alone in that classroom that year, who knows if I would have gotten top marks. Like, to be one of a few kids in the entire fourth grade team to get the highest score in something. Like, who knows, right? Like, you don't really, sometimes you don't really know your own potential and what you're capable of. It's like your CEO material. You have the intelligence to run an entire program. You don't even know because you're too distracted. You're too caught up in the drama of the day-to-day. He said this, she said that, they did that, blah, blah, blah. Too caught up in it. Because you're also participating. You're an active participant in the distraction in your life. There are so many other stories that I have of feeling ostracized and then having to snap myself back into reality and realize that, you know what? If it wasn't for feeling pushed out of the tribe, out of the community, I would not have succeeded in my efforts because I was half-assing it the whole time before. But now I have all the time in the world, and this is what I choose to do with it. And that's how I got the job of my dreams, or that's how I landed that project that I really wanted to be on, or that's how I ended up learning a new instrument and playing it very well. The list goes on, right? We all have the potential to be great, but sometimes the people in our own little island can distract us and take us so far out, take us further and further and further away from our truth, from where we're supposed to be, where we're meant to be. And that is also a part of the journey, is having to navigate that and bring yourself back into your purpose, walking in your purpose. And other times, what's a part of the journey is a little help from the universe that has to cut out the distractions in your life, has to snip away at the weeds or the dead weight, whatever you want to call it. Because it was hard for you to do that for yourself, because you were so rooted in fear, terrorized at sitting with yourself and your own thoughts, and how painful that seemed to you. So isolation is very beneficial. If you're ever wondering why things are stagnant, why are things not moving at the speed that you want it to move, ask yourself, who in my life is an active participant in my distraction besides yourself, right? Because sometimes after we've held ourselves accountable and we have started to be responsible for our action, we have to look even further out and wonder, okay, maybe it's not only just me that's the problem. Sometimes it can also be the people on your island. And now it's time to kind of kick them out. Tell them to go kick rocks or go swim in the ocean or find yourself another island. And if and when you do, don't tell people. The distractors, don't tell people where you're located on this new island if you chose to skip town and go somewhere new. Because the distractors, they're going to do what they do best. They're going to follow you. Boom, there they are. Now they are also on this new island where it was just you and your thoughts, but now you got a bunch of other people that you were trying to get away from to start a new chapter, turn a new leaf. But you just had to welcome them back in because the isolation got a little bit too hard for you. You know, felt a little bit too uncomfy. All right, the friction was frictioning and you were like, oh, it's a little too prickly right now. It's a little too tense. I don't like this sitting with myself and feeling all alone. I don't like it, even though it's for your betterment. It's for the best. I was in the comments section on a video talking about monitoring spirits. And one of the commenters was like, oh, this person talked me into quitting my job and hopping on this other job, and it was a scam. And then I confronted them about it, and the so-called friend was like, well, I don't know why you're complaining. You would have been the person out of all of us to benefit from it, because you're in the worst place, like you're in the crappiest situation. So that person was like, okay, you're not a friend. X, cut him out, moved to another state, and was somehow, some way recognized by somebody from the past. And then that person that recognized her or him, the commenter, them, they started to go down memory lane, right? Because that's what monitoring spirits do. They try to get you off your game. And so when they went down memory lane, they were also talking about the mistakes that the commenter made in the past. Even though the commenter is like, I'm trying to forget about that. I'm trying to move on from my past mistakes. I'm so far gone from that to the point where I moved states. I'm in a new place, not only mentally, but physically. And then apparently this person that had recognized the commenter from their hometown started going around and spreading the mistakes from the past that they made to the new townspeople. Now, if you've ever known a person who has survived from a smear campaign, or you yourself have experienced a smear campaign and survived from it, that ish is deadly. Smear campaigns are nothing to dismiss. They are nothing to take lightly. You have to do everything in your power to come out victorious, come out on top, and be victorious against the people who are trying to unalive you, because that's really what it is. I have a friend that went through a smear campaign, and the ultimate goal, when those vessels, because I don't even want to call them people, when those vessels that are being possessed, because they have this opening that allows dark entities to possess them, they are now trying to take you out the game, right? They are trying to take you out by any means necessary. So they will lie on your name, defamation, go around town spreading bad things about you. It gets deadly. It does. But that's a conversation for another day. But right now, we're talking about isolation and the importance of removing yourself from a space, whether you were intentionally pushed out or you yourself walked away from, because you're just like, you know what, being surrounded by these people, they're not benefiting me. They're not helping me grow. They're not helping me gain anything from association with them. So it's time for me to go. You can also be your own superhero and close the door and walk away, walk in the opposite direction. You don't have to stay in that space. But the most important thing is understanding that you're not lonely in isolation. That's your me time. That's your time to figure out yourself, to figure out your identity, figure out who you are, who you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. and work on that person. Work on becoming him, becoming her. And go from there. It's not the time to dwell about the loss and the grief that comes with the loss that you felt about losing a friend or losing your family and having to go no contact with certain people. It's not about that. It's about taking the time to focus on yourself for once and locking in and getting down to work, getting down to business. So that's all that I have for today. I hope that resonated with some of you. Isolation isn't the end all be all. It's not the end of the road. It's actually the beginning of something special.